Welcome to our channel. Today we embark on a journey back in time, to explore a darker side of our natural world. We will be venturing into the shadows of history, to uncover the stories of the most horrific diseases known to humankind. From the bubonic plague to the devastating influenza pandemic of 1918, we will delve into the origins, the spread, and the impact these diseases have had on humanity. We will witness the devastation they caused, and the resilience of those who fought to survive. These tales are not for the faint of heart, they are tales of suffering, of loss, and of the constant battle between humanity and the microscopic enemies that have shaped our world. So brace yourselves as we unearth the most horrific diseases in history. The year is 1346. A shadow creeps across Asia, a silent menace carried on the backs of fleas, themselves hitching rides on unsuspecting rats. This, my friends, is the Black Death, a devastating pandemic that would forever scar the human story. It began quietly, a whisper of illness in the bustling markets of the Silk Road. But soon, the whispers grew to screams, as the Black Death, later identified as the bubonic plague, began its deadly march across the globe. Imagine, if you will, the terror that gripped the hearts of medieval citizens. The stench of death was everywhere, the streets littered with the bodies of the unfortunate. Doctors, helpless against the invisible enemy, donned grotesque masks, their beaks stuffed with sweet-smelling herbs, a futile attempt to ward off the disease. The Black Death was relentless. It spared no one, rich or poor, young or old. Entire families were wiped out, villages deserted, their silence a chilling testament to the plague's devastating power. The Black Death tore through Europe with terrifying speed. In just a few short years, it had decimated the population, leaving in its wake a world forever altered. The social and economic fabric of medieval society lay in tatters. The sheer scale of death was unfathomable. It is estimated that as much as 1/3 of Europe's population perished during the Black Death's reign of terror. The impact on art, literature, and even religious beliefs was profound. The world, forever marked by the Black Death, learned a brutal lesson in the power of nature's fury. The plague retreated, but the fear it instilled lingered, a constant reminder of humanity's vulnerability. And yet, from the ashes of this devastation, a new world began to emerge. The Black Death, though a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, inadvertently sowed the seeds of change, leading to a period of social and economic upheaval that would ultimately shape the modern world. Smallpox. The very name conjures images of suffering, of bodies ravaged by fever and covered in the telltale poxmarks. This ancient foe has haunted humanity for centuries, leaving an indelible mark on our history. Unlike the bubonic plague spread by fleas and rats, smallpox was a far more insidious enemy. It traveled on the breath, invisible, unstoppable, lurking in the air we breathe. Imagine a world with no defense against this invisible enemy, a world where a simple cough could spell a death sentence. Smallpox was a terrifying lottery, striking without warning, leaving a trail of misery in its wake. The disease was merciless. Those who survived were often left disfigured, their bodies bearing the scars of their ordeal. Smallpox knew no boundaries, affecting the rich and poor, the young and old, with equal cruelty. For centuries, smallpox held humanity captive in a cycle of outbreaks and despair. But the human spirit, much like nature itself, possesses an incredible capacity for resilience and innovation. The fight against smallpox was long and arduous. Early attempts to combat the disease, such as variolation, were fraught with risk, but the quest for a cure continued, driven by the desperate need to break free from smallpox's grip. And then, a breakthrough. In the late 18th century, an English physician named Edward Jenner made a revolutionary discovery. He observed that milkmaids infected with cowpox, a milder related disease, seemed to be immune to smallpox. This observation led to the development of the world's first vaccine. The impact of Jenner's discovery was nothing short of miraculous. The smallpox vaccine, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, offered a glimmer of hope in a world ravaged by disease. Finally, humanity had a weapon in the fight against this ancient foe. The year is 1918. The world is engulfed in the throes of the First World War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality. Yet amidst the trenches and battlefields, a new enemy emerges, silent and invisible but far more deadly. This was the Spanish flu, a strain of influenza so virulent that it would claim more lives in a single year than the entire war itself. The virus, believed to have originated in birds, spread like wildfire through the cramped and unsanitary conditions of the trenches. Soldiers weakened by the hardships of war became easy prey, but this was no mere soldier's ailment. The Spanish flu did not discriminate. It swept across the globe with terrifying speed, reaching every continent and leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Cities ground to a halt as hospitals overflowed with the sick and dying. Doctors, overwhelmed by the sheer number of cases, were often powerless to help. Masks became commonplace, a desperate attempt to ward off the invisible enemy. The world had never seen anything like it, and few were prepared for the horrors that would unfold. What made the Spanish flu so terrifying was not just its virulence but its peculiar pattern of mortality. Unlike typical influenza strains, which primarily affected the very young and the very old, this virus seemed to target those in the prime of their lives. Healthy adults in the peak of their strength were struck down, their immune systems overwhelmed by the ferocity of the virus. Families were decimated, businesses shuttered, and communities left reeling from the relentless march of death. The world watched in horror as the death toll mounted. Estimates vary, but it is believed that the Spanish flu infected over 500 million people worldwide, a third of the global population at the time. Of those infected, an estimated 50 million perished, leaving an unimaginable void in families and communities across the globe. The pandemic finally began to subside in the summer of 1919, but its impact would be felt for generations. The world had learned a harsh lesson about the power of infectious diseases and the importance of global cooperation in the face of such threats. Tuberculosis, or consumption as it was once known, has cast a long and ominous shadow over human history. This ancient disease, caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis, has plagued mankind for millennia, its insidious nature claiming countless lives. Tuberculosis is most commonly a respiratory disease, attacking the lungs and causing a persistent cough, often accompanied by blood, as well as fever, night sweats, and severe weight loss. Its effects can be debilitating, slowly robbing its victims of their strength and vitality. For centuries, tuberculosis was a death sentence. The lack of effective treatments meant that those who contracted the disease were often sent to sanatoriums, isolated from the outside world in the hope that fresh air and rest might offer some respite. These sanatoriums, often located in remote and idyllic settings, became both refuge and prison for the afflicted. Patients would spend months, even years, confined to their beds, clinging to the hope of a cure that seemed perpetually out of reach. The discovery of antibiotics in the mid-20th century brought new hope to the fight against tuberculosis. Streptomycin, the first effective drug against the disease, was hailed as a miracle cure, and for a time, it seemed that tuberculosis might finally be vanquished. Public health campaigns promoting hygiene and sanitation, coupled with widespread vaccination efforts, further helped to drive down infection rates. However, just as victory seemed within reach, tuberculosis staged a resurgence. The emergence of drug-resistant strains of the bacterium, coupled with the HIV/AIDS epidemic, which weakened immune systems and made people more susceptible to infection, breathed new life into this ancient killer. Today, tuberculosis remains a major global health concern, particularly in developing countries where access to healthcare is limited. The fight against this persistent foe continues, a stark reminder that even in the 21st century, infectious diseases still pose a significant threat to human health. Cholera, a disease as old as civilization itself, is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and the environment. This waterborne illness, caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholera, spreads silently and swiftly, leaving a trail of suffering in its wake. Unlike diseases that announce their presence with fever and rashes, cholera strikes with a terrifying swiftness. The bacterium, often ingested through contaminated water or food, multiplies rapidly in the intestines, triggering severe diarrhea and vomiting. The human body, drained of fluids at an alarming rate, becomes dangerously dehydrated. Muscles cramp, organs fail, and if left untreated, death can occur within hours. It is a cruel and agonizing demise. The history of cholera is inextricably linked with poverty and poor sanitation. Overcrowded cities lacking proper sewage systems and access to clean water have proven to be fertile breeding grounds for this deadly bacterium. Cholera's reign of terror has been punctuated by a series of devastating pandemics. The first cholera pandemic, originating in India in the early 19th century, swept across Asia, Europe, and North America, leaving millions dead in its wake. Each subsequent pandemic brought fresh waves of suffering, highlighting the vulnerability of even the most advanced societies to this relentless foe. The seventh cholera pandemic, which began in the 1960s and continues to this day, serves as a stark reminder that the battle against this disease is far from over. While cholera remains a major public health challenge, particularly in developing nations, significant progress has been made in understanding and combating this disease. Oral rehydration therapy, a simple solution of sugar and salts, has proven to be a lifesaver, effectively combating dehydration and significantly reducing mortality rates. The fight against cholera is ultimately a fight for basic human dignity. Access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare are not luxuries but fundamental human rights, essential for preventing the spread of this deadly disease and ensuring a healthier future for all. Leprosy, a chronic infectious disease caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium leprae, has cast a long shadow over human history. This disease, which primarily affects the skin, peripheral nerves, upper respiratory tract, eyes, and testicles, thrives in close contact, spreading through respiratory droplets. Over time, if left untreated, it can lead to nerve damage, resulting in a loss of sensation in the extremities. Imagine, if you will, the chilling sensation of losing feeling in your fingers, your toes, no longer able to feel the warmth of the sun or the coolness of water. This gradual numbness is a hallmark of leprosy, a disease that has haunted humanity for millennia. The affected limbs, robbed of their protective senses, become vulnerable to injury and infection, leading to further complications. The physical manifestations of leprosy, while distressing, are only part of the story. The social stigma attached to this ancient illness has often been more debilitating than the disease itself. Throughout history, those afflicted with leprosy were often ostracized, cast out from their communities, and forced to live in isolated colonies or leper colonies. The fear and misunderstanding surrounding leprosy are largely unwarranted. Leprosy is not highly contagious, it spreads through prolonged close contact, but most have natural immunity. Symptoms take years to appear. Multi-drug therapy revolutionized treatment in the 1980s. Antibiotics halt disease progression and prevent disability. Early diagnosis and treatment enable normal, healthy lives. Leprosy is now curable, with significant progress in reducing its global burden. Organizations like WHO work tirelessly to eliminate leprosy. They provide accessible healthcare, especially in endemic regions. The story of leprosy shows human resilience against adversity. From ancient fear to modern care, humanity strives for a world free from leprosy. Deep within the rainforests of Central Africa, a deadly virus lay dormant, its existence unknown to the wider world. Then, in 1976, it emerged with a vengeance. Ebola, named after a river in the Democratic Republic of Congo, announced its presence with a terrifying swiftness, striking fear into the hearts of those who crossed its path. Unlike leprosy's slow and disfiguring progression, Ebola strikes with brutal efficiency. The virus, a member of the Filoviridae family, causes severe hemorrhagic fever, disrupting the body's ability to regulate blood clotting. The initial symptoms, often flu-like, quickly escalate into a cascade of horrors, including high fever, vomiting, diarrhea, and internal and external bleeding. The virus spreads through direct contact with the bodily fluids of infected individuals, both living and deceased. Its highly contagious nature poses a significant challenge to healthcare workers, who must exercise extreme caution when treating Ebola patients. The lack of effective treatment options further complicates efforts to contain outbreaks. The world watched in horror as Ebola outbreaks ravaged West Africa between 2014 and 2016, claiming over 11,000 lives. The epidemic exposed the vulnerabilities of healthcare systems in the affected regions and highlighted the urgent need for international cooperation in the face of global health emergencies. Scientists and researchers worked tirelessly to understand the virus and develop effective treatments and vaccines. Their efforts led to the development of experimental treatments like ZMapp and the approval of the first Ebola vaccine, RVSV-Zbov, in 2019. These breakthroughs offered a glimmer of hope in the fight against this deadly disease. Despite these advancements, Ebola remains a significant threat to global health security. The virus's ability to lie dormant in animal populations, its potential for rapid spread, and the lack of widespread access to vaccines and treatments underscore the importance of ongoing research and preparedness efforts. The fight against Ebola is a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the importance of global solidarity in addressing health threats. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of this deadly virus, we must remain vigilant, prepared to respond swiftly and effectively to future outbreaks. The year is 541 AD. The Byzantine Empire, a beacon of civilization stretching from the eastern Mediterranean to the Persian frontier, stood at the pinnacle of its power. Yet, unbeknownst to its citizens, a silent invader lurked on the horizon, carried on the backs of unsuspecting fleas. This was no ordinary enemy. This was Yersinia pestis, the harbinger of the bubonic plague. The Plague of Justinian, named after the reigning Byzantine Emperor Justinian I, marked the first recorded large-scale pandemic in human history. It swept across the known world with terrifying speed, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. From the bustling ports of Egypt to the heart of Constantinople, the plague's tendrils reached far and wide, sparing no one. The plague's arrival in Constantinople, the empire's beating heart, was nothing short of apocalyptic. The city, normally teeming with life and commerce, transformed into a desolate landscape of the dying and the dead. The stench of decay permeated the air, a grim testament to the plague's gruesome toll. As the plague tightened its grip on the Byzantine Empire, it crippled society. The economy halted as trade routes shut down and agriculture plummeted. Social order unraveled, strained by overpopulation and inequality. The death toll reached 50 million, nearly half the world's population. The weakened empire became vulnerable to invasions, leading to its decline. The plague's legacy haunted the world for centuries. The Plague of Justinian reminds us of the power of infectious diseases. In the tapestry of life, new threads are constantly being woven, some vibrant and beautiful, others dark and unsettling. In the 1980s, a new and mysterious illness began to cast a shadow over humanity. This was the dawn of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, a complex and challenging foe that would leave an enduring mark on the world. Initially shrouded in fear and misunderstanding, the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, primarily targeted the immune system, weakening the body's defenses against infection. It spread silently, often undetected through bodily fluids, leaving individuals vulnerable to a range of opportunistic infections. As the virus took hold, it manifested as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS, a devastating condition that left individuals susceptible to a myriad of life-threatening illnesses. The medical community raced against time to understand and combat this new adversary, but progress was slow and the death toll continued to rise. Fear and stigma surrounded the disease, further complicating efforts to control its spread. The global response to the HIV and AIDS epidemic was unprecedented. Scientists worked tirelessly to develop effective treatments, while activists and healthcare workers fought tirelessly to raise awareness and provide care for those affected. Slowly but surely, progress was made. Antiretroviral drugs, initially a distant hope, became a reality, offering a lifeline to those infected with HIV. These medications, while not a cure, could suppress the virus, allowing individuals to live longer, healthier lives. The development of these drugs marked a turning point in the fight against AIDS, but the battle was far from over. Access to treatment remained a significant challenge, particularly in developing countries. The stigma surrounding HIV persisted, preventing many from seeking testing and treatment, and the virus itself proved to be a cunning adversary, constantly evolving and adapting to new challenges. Despite these obstacles, the global community refused to give up. Efforts to educate the public about HIV prevention and treatment intensified. International organizations worked to increase access to medication and support. And researchers continued their quest for a cure, driven by the belief that one day, this devastating disease would be consigned to the history books. In the heart of many tropical and subtropical regions, a tiny adversary reigns supreme, the mosquito. But this is no ordinary insect. This creature carries within it a microscopic parasite, Plasmodium, responsible for one of humanity's oldest and most persistent foes: malaria. Transmitted through the bite of an infected female Anopheles mosquito, the malaria parasite embarks on a complex journey within the human host. It targets the liver, where it multiplies before invading red blood cells, the very lifeblood of the body. The cycle of infection, from mosquito to human and back again, has continued for millennia. The symptoms of malaria are as varied as they are debilitating: fever, chills, sweats, headache, muscle pain, and fatigue. These are just some of the hallmarks of this relentless disease. In severe cases, malaria can lead to organ failure, coma, and even death. Children are particularly vulnerable, their fragile bodies ill-equipped to withstand the onslaught of the parasite. For centuries, malaria has plagued humanity, claiming countless lives and hindering development in affected regions. The fight against malaria is a multi-pronged approach, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Insecticides, bed nets treated with long-lasting insecticides, and indoor residual spraying target the mosquito vector, disrupting the cycle of transmission and protecting vulnerable populations. Early diagnosis and prompt treatment with effective anti-malarial medications are crucial in curbing the severity of the disease and preventing its spread. But access to healthcare remains a significant challenge in many malaria-endemic regions, particularly in remote and impoverished communities. Research and development continue to play a vital role in the quest to control, eliminate, and eventually eradicate malaria. Scientists are exploring new drugs, vaccines, and genetic modification techniques to target the parasite and its mosquito vector. The development of a highly effective vaccine, capable of providing long-lasting protection, would be a game-changer in the fight against this ancient foe. The road ahead is long, and the challenges are many, but the global community remains committed to defeating malaria. With continued investment, innovation, and collaboration, we can strive for a future where this preventable and treatable disease no longer casts its long shadow over humanity. From the Black Death to HIV/AIDS, the diseases that have plagued humanity throughout history serve as a stark reminder of our vulnerability. They have tested our resilience, challenged our understanding, and left an indelible mark on the course of human civilization. Yet, amidst the suffering and loss, these diseases have also revealed the very best of humanity. They have inspired innovation, driven scientific discovery, and fostered a spirit of global cooperation. Time and time again, we have risen to the challenge, developing new treatments, implementing public health measures, and working tirelessly to alleviate suffering and save lives. The battle against disease is far from over. New threats will undoubtedly emerge, testing our resolve and demanding our attention. But the lessons learned from past epidemics will serve us well in the future. By embracing scientific advancements, prioritizing public health, and working together as a global community, we can strive to create a healthier and more resilient future for all. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Stay safe and healthy. And